A very good morning to you all. I hope you guys are doing very well today and you're ready to start your day with me, Maha Maktoum, and the wonderful Shazad Khan. Shazad, assalamu alaikum. Hello, how are you?
Walaikum assalam. I am absolutely perfect. And, we do hope that everybody out there is fine too.
No, we don't.
You guys are ready to kickstart your day with us. Time to rise and shine, wake and bake, get up, and, just get on with your goals. Whatever you have decided, please make sure that you're not going to leave them aside and you are going to focus on them and you're going to make sure that you're going to be positive in every walk of life.
Absolutely. That's a wonderful way to wake up. And, I did try. I really tried today. But, Shazad...
Well, what happened today? I think there's something which you want to share with us. Really? Did you fight with someone?
I didn't. Listen, I didn't start it, I swear.
Right.
So basically, we give you public service messages and we try to do it, things that are really relevant to us, and then we try and think about you guys as well, as in what you should do, because, mistakes that we make as well.
Yeah.
So, I haven't been the best. We know that I get a bit of road rage and, I get a bit agitated.
Yeah.
So today, I'm driving. I wasn't being aggressive.
Yeah.
I'm just driving and it was kind of empty and I'm coming up to the traffic lights.
Yeah.
And this white Suzuki from the left lane, just without indicating, just pulls up into the right lane. And I'm driving quite fast, and I kind of figured people would do that, but because the traffic was still, I was like, okay, no, it should be fine. He pulls up, and I'm like, no, this is my space. So I kept going, and so did he. And then what happened was that it was like he just kind of wouldn't move, and I thought he would stop. So in the end, he ended up just literally scratching my car.
Oh my God.
And I couldn't actually move my car. So that's why one should call. And then I kind of was like, you didn't indicate, etc., etc. He's like, no, it's your fault. I was like, you didn't indicate. I admit whatever. But I was like, okay, fine, just move out of my way. So that made me really upset.
Yeah. But are you fine now?
I'm fine
that's
now.
cool.
But things are really now, I'm a bit more agitated.
All right, but you'll be fine. Don't
I will.
worry
I
now.
always am, because you then make me laugh.
Thank you very much for that. But other than that, ladies and gentlemen, I think with
Didn't
that...
sound very funny, did it, that story?
Before we move on towards the top stories of the hour, obviously what I want to say over here is that, whenever you're leaving your home, please, first of all, always keep a margin of 5 minutes. Leaving home 5 minutes earlier will obviously save you from being in a rush as well. I'm not saying that you were in a rush.
I wasn't in a rush.
But obviously it can be anybody else's mistake. Just forgive them and,
I think he was in a rush.
focus on what you do, what you want to do, and probably where you're going. That's it. Just mind your own business.
Yeah.
I think if that's what we Pakistanis can do, that's going to be great. Other
Yes.
than that,
Let's
move on towards the top stories for this hour.
Okay, so the computerized balloting for the successful candidates under the government Hajj scheme into this year will be held today in Islamabad.
Wow, so congratulations in advance for all those people who are going to get lucky in the balloting
And
process
good luck
as
to
well.
everyone.
And when you're there for Hajj, please make sure that you guys even pray for us.
That would be great.
Yeah, exactly. And now moving on to the other headline, which is Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif directs Interior Minister for implementation of recommendations of Dawn Leaks Committee in letter and spirit. Great deal. And following that, ladies and gentlemen, we've got President Mamnoon Hussain says international community should join hands to combat terrorism as this menace has grown into a global problem. Very well said.
Okay, and then the ICC has endorsed, and this is now the sports, so the ICC has endorsed a new financial model and governance structure, scrapping the Big Three formula. The body also has agreed to consider the feasibility of returning international cricket to Pakistan. I was reading about this yesterday. This is great, keep cause, justice doesn't fail.
And other than that, I think we need to appreciate. Yeah. Okay, so finally we moved on to public service message, so I couldn't complete what I was about to say, but let's just move on with public service message.
Yes.
So Maha, is it about road safety then?
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
Road safety, guys. I gave you a really long story, which wasn't that as funny when I told it to you, but it was quite amusing. But no, seriously, like Shazad said, it can save lives. It can, avoid unnecessary drama, unnecessary agitation, and unnecessary spoiling of your mood. Because it's the end of the week, and one should be happy. But do use your indicating. The thing is, the indicators are there for a reason.
Yeah.
So please, let's use them.
Exactly, that's what it is. So ladies and gentlemen,
I'm being very specific today. It's about indicators.
Yeah.
So let's start.
This was our public service message, and we're going to keep on reiterating that because of the fact that we want to see that discipline on the road
Yeah,
as well.
Shazad was like, oh no, Maha, you already said it. I was like, I will keep saying it until I see it. So, yes.
So that is beautiful, and the only reason why we have a public service message is that we want you guys to be healthy, we want you guys to be safe, because there are always loved ones who are actually looking after you. But other than that, ladies and gentlemen, now let's move on towards what we are going to talk about today.
Yes.
And I think it is going to be a very interesting show
Yeah.
because we have never ever done a show on this topic, first of all. Now, what happens is that the people who surround you, I mean, we very commonly hear this saying, and it is like, you know, a company is known by the men it keeps. And it goes the other way around
So
as
true.
well.
It's true, I agree with that statement.
Yeah. So now what happens is that, for example, if you surround yourself with a bunch of people who always talk negative, I don't think that you will be the one who will always be positive. Or, for example, let me put it this way. If you roam around with 4 broke guys, you're going to be the 5th one.
No, that's a very interesting one. Unless you start supporting them all. And
Yeah.
But anyway, but you're absolutely right. And actually today we're going to keep it completely positive. We know that there's a lot of negativity out there. We know there's a lot of issues. But today we're going to talk about how can we change our internal thoughts and internal things into a very positive way so that everything that we approach is with positivity, because life is tough enough as it is. There's enough social pressures, there's enough
Exactly.
economic pressure. So we should have the best tools available to us to combat and deal with these things.
And
because you pass it on.
Yeah.
Your moods, like I know that recently I've been around certain people and I've started feeling their moods. And I know I do that to people too, that you can project as well. I don't know if project is the right word.
yeah,
but
you get to feel the vibe as
The
well.
vibe.
But other than that, there's a great formula which I have, and that is that, you know, when I go to bed, you know, so it's like 100%. All right. So what you have to do is that you have to go over your day, what you did.
Yeah.
So the 50% goes on to what you did, and then the 20% or the 30% goes on to what you did wrong to all those people. I mean, you know, you got to realize that. And the last 20%, when you're just about to go fall asleep, is that you're going to think about all the goods and all the positives, and then, you know, the next morning when you're going to get up, you'll feel better. You'll feel as if there was a chimney on your head. You know, the black smoke vanished, and you're going to be perfect.
Exactly.
But other than that, you know, people do really communicate within their own selves. But majority of the time, whenever we are communicating with our own selves, it is because of the factors or the characteristics which play a very positive or a negative role in our life. Usually what we're thinking is, oh, the child fees still pending. You know, I still have to go to
Yeah,
the gym. You know,
life
this is
issues.
why, yeah, you know, so you always talk or think about life issues. Now, as a matter of fact, for a while, if you sit down and think, life is so great. I should always be thankful to Allah. We are so blessed that
Okay.
we are healthy. We've got each and every body part intact, and it's working. I think we'll feel better.
Absolutely, and the thing is, let's get the conversation started because we really have a lot to talk about. But it's also not about putting pressure and blame on yourself, and you're not always in the best mental capacity. So we'll talk about all of these things to get us to that point. So we've been joined by Dr. Uzma Masroor. She's the head of department at Berry University. She's also a consultant clinical psychologist and a practitioner of hypnotherapy and NLP, and also cognitive behavior therapy.
Wow.
Assalamu alaikum, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Besides Dr. Uzma Masroor, we've been joined by Ms. Tahira Javed. She is a consultant clinical psychologist and a practitioner of hypnotherapy and NLP. Assalamu alaikum, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Besides Ms. Tahira Javed, we've been joined by Ms. Wajiha Zafar. She's also a clinical psychologist and a practitioner of hypnotherapy. Assalamu alaikum, good morning. And it's interesting that you will do hypnotherapy, but we will talk about that
We'll
later.
definitely talk about that. But how is it for you to be on television for the very first time?
Oh,
Let's get
let's
started with
highlight
that.
it.
Let's
No
get started with
pressure.
that. No, it's no pressure. I mean, I just want her to feel relaxed. That's
No,
what
that
it
is the opposite of what you're doing.
You know, the very moment you did her introduction, she was like clenching her hands. I was like, man, she's getting
So
nervous.
let's highlight it. and
So
put
it's
spotlight
all
there.
good. You know, it's all cool, and you know, we're going to make it away.
Oh, Shazad.
Yeah, let's do it.
Anyway, so Dr. Uzma, thank you so much for joining us. So let's get the conversation. It's about communication with the inner self. As a psychologist, what have you seen are the trends of the type of conversations people are having with themselves? Let's highlight that, and then we can talk about solutions.
Yeah.
I'll start with the communication skills. You know, while talking about human kind of functioning enhancement and everything, we talk about communication skills. We need to communicate to the people effectively so that we can, meet our goal and purpose. So besides that, we always have a communication going on continuously within ourselves as well.
Yeah.
And this is not exactly the self-talk, or I won't say it is internal dialogue, but it is something more than that, something beyond that. For instance, For ourselves, we have certain messages, like, whether we are able to accomplish certain task or not, and whether we are capable enough or what. It is all related to our internal belief system, because we have some system in place within ourselves that in fact equips us, that helps us, that supports us to, carry out our life activities and different achievements and goals we set for our lives.
Okay.
So this communication system is more related to the development of ideas, the values, and most of them. I mean, most important is the self-esteem, the self-respect, the self-concept we develop with the passage of time.
Okay.
And and that we communicate with that self that is, has been developed throughout the years,
Okay,
and that
perfect.
enables us, to move forward.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. So now moving forward, Ms. Tyra, now the internal belief system that Dr. Osman just pointed out, what shapes and influences that? Because it's in our core years.
Actually, I would like to add one thing in it. When we talk about internal communication, we see that there are two ways of communication within ourselves.
Okay.
One is the positive and the other is the negative.
I thought you
Positive
were
is
going to say
always
texting and
encouraging.
Your own self.
Yeah.
So the positive one is encouragement, it's motivating, it's like you can do it, yes, buck up, it's yours. And the negative says you cannot do it, you would not be able to achieve it, you would fail. So when we need to listen, we need to listen to the both voices. When we say, okay, we are sitting alone, it doesn't mean we are alone. We have two voices and we must pay attention to them, because those are the beliefs which our personality is following.
Okay, now leading on to the question that I asked. So all these positive and negatives are influenced by the internal belief system, which is, so what affects that?
It affects our communication, it affects our personality, it affects
No,
our
sorry,
decision making.
We're
wrong.
talking
I used
about
the
the development
I
years.
used the wrong word. What has an impact on it? Sorry. What shapes our internal belief
Okay,
system?
you mean what factors
What
influence these?
Influence, that's the word I'm
Yeah.
looking for.
So our personality factors, they influence, plus the experiences. For example, if someone tells a child you cannot do it, that would become the part of the belief system, and the child would believe that yes, I cannot do it, and he would listen to that.
All right, we have a disagreement over here.
We don't have
Wow.
a disagreement.
What a
We
lovely morning.
We are constantly answering back as well, like when we listen to some voice within, and then we try to answer it back, and sometimes we are, successful in communicating to that voice. In fact, it is all related to the two separate belief system. They are standing parallel to each other, and they are supporting us either way. Sometimes we need this system, sometimes we need that system.
No, but let's start from, the early years. Let's start from,
Exactly.
where we start to develop our,
Okay, so
brain,
now we've
where we start to
highlighted it.
develop our
Yeah.
own
Yeah.
stuff.
So-
Let's get started from there.
It is mostly related to our environment.
Yeah.
And we start with our family, that includes our parents and siblings, and other figures which are influential in our lives, which are very significant for us. So as a child, when we listen to, their conversations, when we listen to their commands and their attributions to our functioning, so it plays very important role, because then it, kind of creates your own structure.
Okay, and that's perfect.
One thing, just one thing,
Yeah.
like your mind at that time is unable to decide whether you are being, whatever you are being labeled to is correct or not correct. So that's why it starts developing from that point.
Okay, and that's perfect. So now we've kind of highlighted the issues and the areas that we're going to be discussing. So let's delve into that. So now you said it's about the childhood, it's the early years, and it's about those two parallel systems. Now, Ms. Fajiha, let's ask you, these two, as a parent who has an influence on a child, that's where it comes.
Yeah.
How can we instill in our kids that this is, because parents also don't always know what's the best balance.
Right.
So how do they approach it so that the child has got a positive communication?
Well, if talking about parents, first of all, self-communication develops in childhood. Parents ka the role of the parents is that they should communicate positively. They should communicate
Positive.
like you can do this. There is a subconscious mind and a conscious mind, and we continuously just say you can do this, you cannot do this, and you are never be able to do that, to do such things. Your subconscious mind starting developing such kind of thoughts and such kind of personality, and the child starting accepting this. Oh my God, I can't do
Okay,
this.
but let's not run away from reality over here, and let's try to be very relative with the masses as well. Now, for example, if we talk about a normal household over here in Pakistan, the child gets beaten every now and then because of the mistakes he commits. Other than that, your father or your mother, if you don't study, will always keep on telling you, you know, if you're not going to study, you won't get a job, you'll be a poor chap all your life.
You're a failure.
You're going to be a failure. You're not going to have, you know, so we do disturb their self-esteem, their ego, and we keep on pushing that away as well.
But
what type of impact do you think in the first place, all of those people, you know, because we have grown up, you know, we might have that capability within our own selves, we have developed that we can fight with that.
Exactly. Sorry, I just want to add before you answer
Okay.
is that, you know, like, and also another thing I think which is very vital here is that when kids get marks, oh, well, that kid got better than you. I mean, what?
6 साल के बेटे के इतने नंबर आए हैं.
Yeah, you're right.
हमारा थोड़ी है भाई वो.
Right. You're right.
Doctors, and then we'll move on to Dr. Miss Tyra, sorry.
You know, initially the circle is quite closer, and it depends only on your family. How does you are kind of supported or discouraged or encouraged. But later on, this circle in fact expands, because child initially he is at home, but later on he joins schools. Then he has a peer system, and he has teachers, and he has other people around.
Yeah.
And when this system expands, in fact, it enables him to sometimes, having deficiencies at home can be compensated at school.
Yeah.
And later on it expands further, because then there come his own choices, his own preferences. Then he creates his own company, interest and everything. Then he starts, moving around the society, and wherever he feels comfortable, he just go and lands there.
Okay.
Because sometimes the children, they land into something very, harmful for them, a bad company. But sometimes whenever, it all depends upon what I would say, the surroundings and everything, because child is not capable of deciding on his own.
Yes.
So it all depends. However, as a psychologist, I would say it is never late, because no matter how many years in his life he has been terrible to everything, everything has been discouraging to him, still he has this inner capability, the inner, I would say, default correction system that keeps him moving and looking for something good for himself. So the self-esteem wants, the self concept, self-esteem wants to live, in fact.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
Ms. Tyra, what would you add to this?
I would like to add that when we talk about the masses, it's very true that parents usually don't understand that they should be using the positive statements for the child because it's important for his personality building. But we would observe in the society that the child affiliates and associates himself with the ones who are encouraging, with the ones who are motivating him, no matter if he's an uncle or aunt or some teacher or peers, he would affiliate himself with them. This is the reason why the child's personality is developed by all the comments and environment. And
there's one more thing which I would love to highlight. Now, majority of the people over here in Pakistan, not now, at least a decade ago, very commonly we used to live in a joint family system.
Right.
Now, all of those uncles and aunts who used to live with you and their kids, obviously not anybody or everybody can be at par socially, economically, or politically, or however. Now, what happens is that there is definitely an impact on the kids of that poor champ who really cannot compete with all of those standards. Now, the kids, what happens is when they grow up, when they grow old, there's this sense of competition, and I don't think that competition can in any way be positive because it's competition.
Exactly.
They do not really tend to meet each other, the distances increase, and then
It can
I
never
think
happen.
that's where self-communication can play a very important role, that you actually have to sort your own self.
Okay, but you have to be self-aware in
Yeah.
order to get this.
Exactly, and
Now,
in the first place.
Exactly. So now the thing is, if you're not self-aware, then you're not going to think that you have any of these issues. And I think this is what happened with the car thing in the morning. That man was not self-aware. So how do we make ourselves aware? And because it's kind of like a limbo situation.
Yeah,
It's
right,
like You're a
right.
child, they don't understand. But then
Exactly.
by the time you realize, as an adult, I realized, oh wait, as a child, this probably wasn't the best thing to be exposed to. Like, this is quite negative. Maybe I've got that,
I think this is what we are talking about. Like, regarding your health and other facets of your life, a child, when he grows up, he starts learning about different things. He learns how to study well, to get this position or what. In the same way, when he looks around and when he sees people who are more competent and who are like according to his own ideal, every child has his own ideal self in his mind. So he tries to strive for that, and he looks, you know, in his society, in his close people. So who are more closer to that?
Okay, perfect. I'm so glad you said the ideal self.
Yeah.
Now that's where I think where most of these issues about communication and positive self-communication come. Sorry,
Exactly.
Shazad, I have to ask this
So
question.
I have an ideal self in my mind. I want to be like this, but there is a self that is right here. So
All right.
I have to kind of make communication or connection between the two.
Okay.
Okay, we'll
perfect.
definitely talk about that, but right now, ladies and
Yes.
gentlemen, we do have to go for a short break, but when you guys are going to come back after the break, what we're going to do is that we're going to talk about all those people who are grown up now, you know, they're working, they're in the working environment, and they surround some people who do all the negative talk, but how do you have to be focused and be on the right path?
Exactly, because it is all, I think, well, it's a statement, we're going to discuss it. Is it all linked to the ideal
Yeah.
self?
And how do you self-communicate? I
Exactly.
think that's what we need to learn as well. Let's go for a short break. Good morning. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for everybody who just got tuned into PT World. You are watching World this morning alongside Shazad Khan and Maha Makhdoom, and today we are talking about how to communicate with your own self, you know, and how to be aware and how to develop an ideal within your own head, and then probably focus on all the positives of the life.
Yeah, I was just talking to myself while you were talking.
Really?
So, no kidding.
See, that's great now.
Yeah.
Now
Okay.
you don't have to speak at all.
Yeah, should I? Yeah. Yeah, sure, yeah.
No, what I'll do is maybe dil mein baatein karunga.
Okay. Oh, I do a lot of baat dil mein. Anyway, so now moving on back. I'd like to move on to the ideals before we talk about how do we communicate with ourselves to get the most healthiest approach to life. Now, this ideal that you've mentioned, which is really true, we have an idea of ourselves, and that's when people are like, oh, you're being too hard on yourself, because we have our own ways of judging ourselves. How do we create a realistic view of ourselves with realistic objectives? Because when we fail, we feel bad. And then when we feel guilty or bad about something, well, they're doing something bad. I feel like in society, that's where it comes from. That,
Very nice.
well, we're judging everyone because we are actually feeling really bad about ourselves.
correctly said. You have just talked about realistic and unrealistic self. Unrealistic self is created when you are imposed by different expectations from different dimensions. They are of unrealistic nature. For example, I do not have certain resources, capabilities, and potentials, but I'm supposed to be someone who has those. So, you know, here the clash comes in. And the real ideal self that is more realistic in nature, that comes within ourselves. Like we want to be what we want to be. And sometimes it doesn't have to do with any social figure or anything we are usually referred to, but it is our own self. So ideal self means whatever gives us satisfaction, in fact. We always look for that. People who are usually in crisis, they are, you know, identity crisis, they do not know their own maybe destinations where they have to lead to and everything. This is just because they are still unable to make themselves clear about the ideal self they are, you know, creating unrealistically, and the one that is realistic for themselves.
Okay, so now, Ms. Tyra, how do we create realistic? Let's start now. How do we realize that it's not a realistic, you know?
When we talk about development of our ideal self, and we want to create new things and new potentials in ourselves, we want to develop. So we need to think, like when we are comparing ourselves with others, we should compare in the things which we feel case somehow or the other I would be able to achieve. Instead, I am getting 50 or 40% marks and I'm saying I would be getting 100% because the other person is getting 100%. So that's unrealistic. We must make certain goals, and we should compare ourselves in a way which seems a bit closer to our own potentials.
Okay.
We can give us targets, we can set up targets like 70%, but not 100% because that's not our potential.
Okay, but Vijaya, moving on to you. Now what happens is that over here, you know, we're talking about, you know, being honest to ourselves, that, you know, okay, these are the goals which we can achieve and these are the goals which we cannot, and we're talking about communicating with our own selves. Now, which habits do you think can actually help us develop such a capacity or capability where we realize our own, you know, potential, that this is what I can do and this is what I cannot? And do you think that thinking of an idea that I cannot do that, or probably reaching that point, is a good thing as well, or not?
Okay. We all have a little voices inside in our mind, and we keep talking to ourselves. But we should ask 3 questions before, whenever the thought comes into mind. We should ask, is it necessary, is it true, or is it improving? Either we are just getting ahead, or I can do that. Just, is it improving yourself or not? Because one should accept oneself, respect oneself, support oneself, and the most important, thanks to oneself what have the done the person is. So the most important is, first of all, we should accept our own self, so we are able to understand ourselves better and improve ourselves.
Should not be there. We should accept
Okay,
whoever we are.
now this is the next thing which I thought about when you guys were all talking, was that, okay, now you're talking about realistic ideals and being ourselves and stuff. But where is the line from realistic and negative, and realistic and unrealistic?
And which
Let me-
Because when I
exercises
feel
can
like-
actually help us do
No,
that?
like,
as well?
let's just give our, like, when I feel like I'm being realistic, everyone's like, Marv, why are you being so negative? I'm like, no, but that's what I'm.
But that's what the
That's
reality
what's going to
is.
happen.
You know, it is very easy to identify how, like, doing certain thing, if I'm upset and it is, you know, taking much of my effort, but still I'm unsatisfied, that definitely means I have to, you know, relook and I have to review whatever I'm thinking of. The first thing is never satisfied case. You are not satisfied, and even your society, your environment is not, you know, complimenting it. So that means my ideal is somewhere not realistic. So moving onward towards the step how we can do that, the most important thing Vijaya highlighted very well, we should first listen to our own thoughts, because listening to thoughts helps us. People do not know how to listen to themselves. They think maybe listening to ourselves or talking to ourselves may be irrational, maybe schizophrenic, or maybe something like that. But this is not the case. Unless you are doing it inappropriately, unless you are...
What's
you know,
appropriate, inappropriate? I mean, who defines
Okay,
that?
I think I've got a solution to that as well. Now, for example, if somebody thinks I'm going to walk to the moon, I mean, that's not possible.
Exactly.
What I think what we need to do is that, for example, for all those people who have these objectives in life, all you need to do is break those goals into different portions
Manageable.
and parts.
manageable parts,
Yeah, exactly.
right?
But other than that, now what I want to ask over here is, what habits can actually help you communicate with your own self on the basis of reality.
I
Do
think-
you think writing a diary
Yes, yes,
or making notes?
it does, it does. First of all, self-awareness.
Yeah, so yeah, let's say,
You know,
Okay,
self-
I'm aware of the fact I'm handsome. All
No,
right,
no, no, right.
Fad.
But you know, regulating it itself also help us.
Yes.
Like for example, if
So not
I know I am kind of procrastinate things.
Yeah.
For example, and I've been told by many people that I procrastinate. So here the thing starts. I should first of all give a conscious thought to it. I have to rethink whether I do this or not.
Okay.
I have to consider whether the person who is labeling this or who is mentioning this to me is kind of important to me, or do I think like this person is capable of suggesting me that
Okay.
Yeah.
himself. So first thing is your consciousness, your awareness about yourself. If you ignore, no, you are also procrastinator. Kind of, this is kind of projecting onto the other, or I would say again denial, very appropriate word for that. No, I'm not doing that. So once consciously can start your process.
Okay.
First thing.
Because I've seen quite a lot of people making excuses as well. Oh, this is what happens, so I cannot do that.
It has been mentioned like you should acknowledge yourself, respecting yourself, caring yourself, acknowledging your potentials, whoever you are.
Okay.
Preserving your inner self, you should move onward. You can only look into certain things which are not like you.
Okay.
So you can start working on them.
Okay.
I would like to add on self-awareness. If we want to get an awareness of our personality, we must sit down, we should note the strengths and weaknesses. So that like when we would look at our own personality, we would identify our own strengths and then we would identify our weaknesses. That would help us to get an awareness. And then we would be able to decide what goals are realistic and what are not. Because
Okay.
when we have certain weaknesses and we are making goals based on those weaknesses, that means that's non-realistic.
Okay, but now this is the thing. Now we want
So
we,
very
we want
intangible.
people to.
Once you go to a restaurant and the food is not good, okay, do you realize you should not go back to that again?
No, I go
So
and
why
tell
do
them.
we? Why do we not apply this to our habits, to our personality?
No, see, this is what I want to see. Let's be realistic. Like what we're talking about, this requires a lot of self-discipline and awareness.
Exactly.
And what's so funny?
No, nothing.
Oh,
I would say
thought
not-
you were laughing.
I would say
Everybody's
not.
trying to be realistic over here today.
No, I'm being really serious
Yeah.
now. I thought I was like, oh God, I'm missing the point. But no, now the thing is, so everyone is trying to be. I've forgotten my train of thought.
It's
She's about to
perfectly
pick
all
it
right.
up.
Let me move on with the conversation because now
One
we
thing-
closer to the we are closer to the reality. Now we have finally
Exactly.
decided that this is
Exactly.
probably writing a diary, making notes, thinking your own self can be a great idea. How now that's why we actually thought of this topic is how do you think
Okay.
that while we are self-communicating, we should always be positive. This is one thing we wanted. How do you think the world can do that?
We communicate through two streams. One is the conscious one. We are very well aware of that. We use words for that and we communicate to ourselves why I'm behaving like that. I should not do that. That is very direct communication to ourselves. And then there is the other stream, that is the unconscious stream. Like it is based upon your imagination, your creativity, and then your inner self. Sometimes I myself am not aware of my inner self. So I have all potentials, all capabilities already preserved within me. For example, those capabilities and resources, I would label them as resources. Those resources somehow I am unable to use. For example, I'm not being confident in certain situation. For example,
Or avoiding a situation. that's
avoiding a
negative.
situation because of lack of confidence, and I have that confidence within me because when I'm in this situation, I'm very confident. So that means I already have this resource within me.
But let's
So
talk-
I have to tell have to tell myself how can I use the very same resource into another situation.
Okay, let's talk about your own experiences. See,
Right.
every day you meet a lot of people, and this is what your job is. How do you guys do it yourself? Because you are the experts, right? Let's start with you, Tara.
Okay, when it comes to ourselves, we constantly tell us, because we even face certain situations in which our negative internal dialogue ons and it says, you cannot do it, you would not be able to compete with this and that and that. So the most important thing there is we should just switch it to the positive one. I just start saying, yes, I know I can do it. I have already done it. I know I would be able, because when there is a phenomena, what you think gives you an emotion, and according to that thinking and emotion, you behave. So when I just switch to the positive one, I think positively, I get the positive emotions, and I behave positively.
Another circuit is on then. Negative circuit to positive one.
But the thing is, you have to have, it has to be a proper circuit with the current running. But the thing is, it's broken for most people. Like even people, that's the thing. Even people who are aware, you know, they still struggle with these things.
Exactly, but there are certain ways of doing that.
So
For
let's
example,
talk about this.
See,
Because hard times never last, tough people do.
Yeah, I know. There are many examples coming in my mind. I can see the time also, you know. But our point is, consciously you can talk to yourself, as Tyra mentioned, but unconsciously what we can do, we can use our imagination, that is creative visualization.
Yeah.
It has to be used in the first place because there are certain, you know, ways of doing it. For example, keeping your body relaxed when you think, your thinking process is more smooth and less critical. So we can create that environment for ourselves. For example, if you want to lose weight, we create our environment. We know where not to go, what thing we need to avoid.
Who to avoid.
Yes, but for personality, we can do the same. Like we can create an atmosphere, like keeping our body away from stress. Okay, we cannot do that most of the time. We have to go through life activities. We are still tired, but we can spare some time, half an hour, 40 minutes, maybe 15, 20 minutes. We can relax ourselves and we can, you know, provide ourselves suggestions. Like, I can do that. It is easy for me and I'm already a capable person. I'm already a confident person. So these are my own resources and I can use them.
Okay, so Vijaya, what do you think? What would you advise all our viewers how to start a positive communication with that inner self?
Okay. Well, negative self-communication makes you able to just lack the confidence. You lack the confidence. So, to generate the most, establish your confidence, you should be able to talk positively, healthy. Healthy self-communication is basically you're talking to your own self. You are
So how do we
inner
do it in
dialogue.
a way where, like, you know, which we were talking about in the makeup room,
Exactly.
that, you know, everyone else then starts like, oh, well, they're talking to themselves. Like, you know, how do we do it? Where do we go? Should we sit by ourselves?
I
Should
think take out time for your own
Yeah,
self.
for your own
Exactly.
self.
You
You
sit
walk.
down with your own
Exactly.
self,
You know,
take your own
as
self out
Dr.
for a
Usma
day.
mentioned-
Wait, wait, sorry, Vajia's trying to talk, guys. So, let the poor girl talk.
As Dr. Usma mentioned, imagination, creative imagination. It's not like that you are sitting in a public place and you are talking, oh my God, I'm looking pretty and I'm looking handsome. It's not like that. It's a creative
Shazad
imagination.
does that. That's what he does.
Right in my head.
On television.
You know, somebody else's
All
eyes
in
tell
head.
me.
Self-communication is all about just things running within your head. So just keep talking, and creative imagination is all about to imagine
Okay,
yourself
I
as
wanted
a
to pick up on this. Now, there's also a fine line there. Creative imagination and then going into unrealistic, you know, fancy world. And how do we do that? We are running out of time.
Yeah, I know. But I have something else in my mind. I have to do that. You know, the process starts with, you know, awareness. Once you are aware of the, then you have certain ways of doing that. And you are talking, you are very well aware of the negative thinking coming in your mind, and Tyra already mentioned how to change it. You switch it towards positive. And the second thing is, keep yourself vigilant to different proofs, you know, in your life which are positive to you, looking for those, you know, clues which are providing
And other
you.
than that, I think what can really help you, and I think this is what applies on me as well, dress up, you know, the way you want to dress up, you know, in a fabulous way. Make sure that, you know, you're well groomed. Make sure that, you know, you feel good about your own self in the first place. If, you know, these three basic traits are missing, you're not going to feel great about you
That does
or
definitely
your own self.
assist.
100%.
Yeah, exactly.
100%.
Because, you know, one day, you know, when I'm not very well dressed and I know that at the back of my head, my performance really lags that
Exactly.
day. So, you know, make
Right.
sure that, you know, you're all healthy, you're all chirpy.
When I was really sick.
and tell your own self that you're pretty, you're handsome, whatever you
And
want to tell your own
everyone
self.
is.
The question was realistic and unrealistic visualization. Okay?
Quickly, yeah, because we had this.
Quickly.
Yeah.
Okay. It doesn't harm you even though you are unrealistic in your thinking, because it somehow the other enables you to reach to your, like as Tyra mentioned, you think of 100 and then you can reach to 70.
Yeah.
Okay.
Amazing.
This is how you
The
do
higher
it.
you aim, the higher you achieve.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there is no limit of creative visualization, realistic, unrealistic. You can always think of something very, high. But
Yeah, because the only boundaries you have is within your own self. So
Yeah,
please
good.
make sure that
Very
you
well
avoid
said.
them as well.
Very well said.
Imagination is boundless.
yeah,
So you could think about anything in your imagination.
Yeah,
You could be
Absolutely, and I
confident.
do. Okay, great. Thank you so much for your time. It was an absolute pleasure always having you on the show. Thank you as well,
Thank you
Tahira.
very much.
And thank you, Vajiha. And
How did
we
it
hope-
go?
Yeah,
Great.
great. Great. And we hope to see you again soon. So, guys, that was our show. So now we're going to do the
Vegetable of the day, and we picked up on
pumpkin.
which is also known as halwa kaddu.
Yes.
I think that's what it is.
So,
Yeah, the health benefits of pumpkins are pumpkin is an extremely nutrition dense food.
And you can make soup out of it. You can make halwa out of it.
Meaning it is chock full of vitamins and minerals, but low in calories. There are many creative ways pumpkin can be incorporated into meals,
Great.
including desserts, soups, salads, preserves. That's what you said.
Yeah.
And I think that's about it. But other than that, ladies and gentlemen,
is quite delicious when you
quite a
make-
vast variety of sweet dishes are even made by pumpkins as well. And then you can even use it on Halloween.
Yeah, and I actually made and eaten pumpkin soup, and it's actually really delicious. So, with that, I hope you guys took something away from the show. We're trying to just give you like more tools to like handle life, and even I'm definitely
Look at
going
us.
No, I'm going to be
The
using
perfect
these.
two.
Oh my God. Anyway, we hope you take positive thoughts, and even if you don't believe it, just keep telling yourself, because one day you will believe it, and
Exactly.
everyone has goodness in them. So let's focus on
I
that.
think that's-
With that, log on to our Facebook fan page,
Well, this morning.
our Twitter page,
Well, this morning without a G.
our Daily Motion and YouTube
Well,
page,
this morning. Well, this morning.
and the repeat is at
11 p.m. Till the next time, ladies and gentlemen, please look after yourselves. Have a great weekend as well. And, no matter what happens, all you need to do is make sure that you look good. You are destined to do great things in life. And that's about it. You really do not have to rely on anyone. Just rely on your own self, because Allah has actually given you all of that, what is required.
Absolutely.
That's what it is. Till the next time, 1, 2, 3.
Good morning.
Look after